Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's topic of the week. Today we're going to be discussing electric vehicles and if the world is ready for them or not. So we decided to look at this one because every time I go online, I read there's always something about EVs, whether it be the deadlines of trying to implement them by 2050, tax credits, whatever, so on, so forth, lack of infrastructure, all these articles. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, it's about time we make a podcast episode on this and whether or not the world is actually ready for them or not. So yes, the world is moving towards EVs, and that's just how it is. It's we're gonna move. There's gonna be a day where all gas cars, diesel cars, are going to be phased out. Whether you will like that or not, personally, like I don't like that. I like my gas cars.
I do
I
too.
I like to go vroom vroom sometimes, but
Yeah.
EVs are the future. They're clean. Yes, I gotta admit they're clean. They're efficient,
hmm
and they're going to be the future. And as technology progresses, they're going to have ranges that are way better than gasoline vehicles.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna disagree with you because I think it's gonna be a fad. I think they're gonna die away because
You think so?
the petrol heads are gonna just take over again. There's always like people think that you can just phase something out. And there's always leaps and bounds and roller coasters. Things happen, things don't. And when there's something about gasoline powered cars, something about when you hear a V8 go down the road, you just love.
I mean, that's for all of us petrol heads. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't think anyone cares too much about the V8, and I don't think there's enough of us to lobby
Yeah.
for it. But
Never know.
hey, I mean,
You,
they won't be completely phased out, like
no.
completely banned. Yeah, we're gonna have like collections, and we're gonna have these shows that we're still gonna have them, but most of the world will be EVs, and all countries are moving towards implementing them to have a EV majority car infrastructure.
Yeah. Let's get into some facts and statistics.
Josh has been waiting for this day for so long, so
So many different
let's
statistics.
let's hear him.
So there's a report that came out that said, and this is going to be kind of all over the place because there's just so much to cover. There's a report that came out that said the goal for the country, the United States in particular, because EV infrastructure in Europe is actually not too bad, especially in developed Europe. In the United States, we should have 12 charging stations for every 100 EVs. Nevada, Mississippi, crazy Mississippi, is considered to be EV accepted, which is the fourth highest level by this report of EV readiness. The last one is EV ready, which is level 5. There are no other states that are on EV accepted. The only other ones are, let me find the report actually. The only other ones are least EV ready, which is Indiana, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois, and EV progressive, the rest of the states in the country. So there's really no one's ready, according to this study. The next part that I want to discuss is what the Biden administration is looking for. They're looking to have over 500,000 charging stations ready and out by 2030. By 2035, they're looking to have, I think, a million. And then by 2050, they're looking to phase out
Everything.
everything. No more gasoline cars. That probably will never happen, but I would say probably we'll probably see a 60-40, 70-30 by 2050.
Right.
Um,
Before you go on with
yeah,
that list,
what?
and why there's those certain states where they're just not EV ready. There's nothing in Montana. Name me one.
There's nothing, yeah.
the, the infrastructure of the United States compared to Europe. Europe is very highly packed with our
Very.
infrastructure. You could take your car and in 5 minutes, not even in 5 minutes, you could take your EVs point A to point B, find exactly what you need, and come back with that. And that could just be walking distance.
Yep.
In the United States, I think from my house to get to the nearest grocery store takes me about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
In Europe,
And that's
uh,
conservative.
and
That's
that's
good.
very, yeah, and that's considered good.
Yeah.
Um, in Europe, however, you could walk in 10 minutes and you probably have found like three shops, three coffee shops, a grocery store, a couple restaurants, everything you need.
Oh yeah.
That's why it is more easy to implement this kind of stuff in Europe rather than in the United States because of how American infrastructure. I'll
Yeah.
just say that.
It's big. It's a big country
It's
too.
it's American
Yeah.
infrastructure. Like we are so
Outdated.
huge and outdated, and there's just like and we're so car dependent, and I can go on and on about
Yeah.
this, but continue with your
For the
thought.
people who aren't American viewers, I had a professor who had family in Oklahoma, and a short drive for them is 30 minutes.
Jesus.
The nearest grocery store was an hour. Like that is how big some and
How fat.
how lack of people are in some states. I mean, Wyoming has 800,000 people in that, which there's 600,000 people in Hartford, Connecticut, and Connecticut's not very big.
Yeah.
So that just gives you some. In some states, there's not even like a market for this kind of stuff. But anyways, to move on from that, to get back to the charges, the Biden administration has laid out a plan to also for to get these 500,000 charging stations to lay out 7.5 billion US dollars till 2030. This the McKinsey consulting firm did a study. They're saying that they believe by 2030 that we will actually need 1.2 million public charging stations and 28 million private stations, which is like, holy crap, how would we?
And that's just US?
That's just US, yeah. Um, they said that this would be over $35 billion that would needed to be put into this to just build the infrastructure, and then to even top it off, to have the funds to sustain it, it would cost $230 billion to sustain this, is what the McKinsey and Company study found. There's three different types of charging stations, which is level one. They are, I don't know, I remember exactly what they're called, but they do 5 miles of range per hour charging. Level two, there's 2.5 miles range per hour charging. And level three, does 1 to 200 miles charging for every 30 minutes. So that is,
Level 3
yeah,
chargers?
level three chargers. So that's the
That's
good chargers, but
This is
those are
where
going to cost
Tesla's
them.
at right now, is their generation 3 chargers,
Yeah,
and where you can charge, they're trying to charge 80% of your battery within 30 minutes. So that's kind of, they're phasing out the old chargers right now in Tesla, and they're putting in these new Gen 3 chargers.
yeah.
But I want to go back to the thing you said. How many chargers do we need?
The study by the McKinsey and Company firm believes that it'll be 1.2 million public, 28 million private, meaning
We
that
need
well,
to.
the need is 1.2 million public, but they speculate that 28 million people will have electric cars.
Do you know what how many fueling stations are in the United States?
I do not. That's a good
According
question.
to the NACS, which is the Association for Convenience and Fuel Retailing, there are around 145,000 fueling stations. So you're telling me
Dang,
we
that's
need
it?
10 times that kind of blew my mind, right? I was like, there's no way. But you're telling me we need 10 times more energy charging infrastructure than about around there, right? Than to fuel up our I don't know if this is considering counting each pump as a thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, because maybe
Well,
it's counting it as individuals charging
because then
like
that
pumps. So,
yeah, okay. All right, yeah, that also makes sense. I don't know how that they're counting it, but I think if they're counting it by one, let's assume that there's 10 per fueling station, then you get to that figure. Okay, that makes
yeah.
sense. But okay,
Ew. Because let's say that they are stations and they're just massive, massive stations. That's technically assuming 10x car buying, like 10, like people are going to buy EVs at a 10x rate of gas
assuming,
cars,
yeah,
which also assumes that the United States population is going to grow 10x by 2030.
is but that the thing
I
is,
guess.
but the thing is, they're counting per charger. They're not counting per station.
Still,
So
oh yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Per station.
it's that is a very interesting figure
It's
though.
still the full
1.4 million chargers.
because what they were looking for is that they need at least 12 chargers per 100 EVs. So if there's 1.2 million EVs, that means or 1.2 million charging stations, that means there's going to be like I don't know how many cars. Like what's the math on that? Like
This is why we don't do math,
yeah,
Josh, and this is why we stick to
yeah.
news and international stuff.
I mean, how many cars are on the road today?
Too many. Let me
Yeah,
let me let me look that up for
there's
you.
definitely an exact figure, but this is like this is assuming that there's going to be like 200 million EVs, which is also assuming that the population would have to grow to like 500 million.
Okay, so According to Forbes, it says that a total of 278 million personal and commercial vehicles were registered to drivers in the United States.
Yeah,
And there are about 300 million people here in the United States. That's our population. So it
330.
so it's almost a one-to-one. Almost. Or of course, there's going to be those people who
Don't
rely
have
on,
cars, children,
yeah, children, public people who use public transport, but it's almost a one-to-one.
But
Very close to.
if you're gonna go for if it's for every 12 EVs charging stations, you're gonna have 100. If they're looking at the hypothetical, you're
100
gonna have
cars
100
per
cars
12 EVs.
per 12 EVs. You're gonna have Jesus. How can we not do this math? It should be easy.
100 cars,
You
12
say
EVs. That means 8.3 cars per one station.
station.
That's a lot.
So that's
That's a
8 million. Oh, that's not even that much.
You know what? Let's just go
Let's
past
go.
that. We're trying to tell you that there's not going to be enough chargers for these
No, there's
cars.
not gonna
That's
be.
what we're getting at.
Yes,
This is
yes,
why we stick to analysis.
yes,
This is why we stick to politics.
yes. Yeah, correct. Anyways, that's a lot of. That's not enough charging stations.
Right.
If the math is correct, that they're gonna have. That also means that there's gonna be 75% phase out by 2050, assuming population growth
Yep.
and assuming growth of people buying cars. That means if you're gonna have 1.2 million EVs by 50/50 mark, that means that 140 million EVs and 1.2 million chargers. Oh my god, that's gonna be the biggest backup ever.
Ah,
Well, okay. If they estimate the 28 million private ones, but that's assuming they can afford them. Oh my goodness. Okay, this just got even more crazy now that I'm
yeah.
thinking about it.
I
Moving
think
on from that,
let's just keep going
that
because
that's
I'm actually like,
yeah, that's a statistician thing. And that's not my thing. So over the 2030 period, they said it's going to cost 35 billion for the hardware installation and planning. Like I said, then it's by 2030 to operate, it's going to cost about 230 billion kilowatt hours. No, that's a lot of strain on the
okay.
system.
So
Move
let's
on
start
from
with let's start with
that.
let's start with charging. So and
Yeah.
unpack this real quick. The amount of chargers we need, and we brought that up, is crazy. We're not even considering the materials we need to dig up out of our own ground to build these chargers,
Yo, my head hurts now.
to build these millions of chargers, and that's just in the United States alone. What about
Mm-hmm.
Europe? What about the Middle East? What about Asia? What about if once Africa comes to a point, they need their EV chargers too. The amount of materials we need, and yes, we have all these gas stations, correct, but we need to remove these gas stations and install EVs. We might not even have to get rid of gas stations. What they might do is they might incentivize just, hey, you have a Shell gas station here. Will you be okay if you let us just put some EV chargers in here? Or what they can do is they can break down the gas stations, use the metals and stuff like that, and recycle it to build it. But we still need the all the lithium. We still need all the cobalt to build these electric chargers. Well,
Dude.
I just saw a light bulb go off in my
Yeah,
head.
okay. Just think about this. In the United States, residential users bought on average 10,649 kilowatt hours of power in 2019. Do some math here.
He's whipping out the calculator. Yes.
10,649 times, I'm gonna assume half the population is in a home, averaging kilowatts. So I'm gonna do 150 million people, just to be conservative, which is
You're running through it right now.
equivalent to 1.5 billion kilowatt hours. That's residential only.
That's
You're telling me that they're gonna add 230 million more
is
on our infrastructure?
did this is McKinsey and Company?
Yeah, this is a study that
Did they run
said.
through their numbers correctly, or is it actually?
No. This is what that needs to be ran.
Oh, it needs to
Yeah,
be.
this is what
Okay,
needs
all
to be
right.
ran to hold this
That's
infrastructure.
yeah. Even then,
230 billion?
Okay. I think the more we dive deep into this,
Oh my goodness me.
what else do you have on there, Josh?
Yeah. Well, I guess I have costs. So we're gonna
I
go
think we
over.
just ran through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the cost for the person.
Okay.
Person who's buying a car. So today, a gas car on average costs $35,000 to buy. $0 in tax credit, about $1,592 per year in insurance, $1,117 in fuel, $1,235 in maintenance. Average yearly cost $3,944. The average cost over a 6-year average lifetime is $58,664. Cost of an electric car $57,000 minus 5,000 for tax credit. Insurance is 1,910 per year. It is more because it's more expensive to get like parts. Fuel 485. I say fuel because whatever. Maintenance is 900 a year. Yes, they cost less than maintenance. 3,295 is your average cost per year, but the total cost over your 6 years is 71,770. So $12,000, $12,106 more over a 6-year period to own an EV than it is to own a gas powered car.
So, fantastic work on the math. I think for our podcast, we should definitely do math beforehand and not
Yes.
try to do it on the spot. One, two, $12,000 over 6 years.
Yeah, 6-year period. That's the average ownership.
Do you know what I could do with $12,000 after 6 years? If I had $12,000 lying around, I would invest it in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
You're losing $12,000 for buying an EV. And the reason you're losing money is because we're not well developed to a point where we can sustain EVs at a cheap cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the maintenance is cheaper and all that, but we can't sustain it because we don't have the ability to yet.
Yeah, we don't know.
Charging is still expensive. I mean, there's people out there still charging their cars for $30 and $40 at Tesla
Oh my
superchargers.
God.
Yeah, I have seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it on their phones because they get billed. It's like 30. I've seen $20, $30. I've
Yeah.
seen $40 before.
Well, and here's the other
It's
thing. That's also not assuming the charging station. That's just the car. So
oh, we're not
charging.
counting in.
No. That doesn't count
Oh,
the
it's
charging
okay.
station that you get from the car. So that's
It's
another add at five thousand
there's
dollars.
also yes, there'll be some days where it's cheaper, some days more expensive. This also depends on what's going on in the macroeconomic world
Mm-hmm.
with energy as well. So
Yes.
EVs are also heavily dependent on. I mean, even gas cars too are heavily dependent on what goes on in the world. But I mean, you have to convert. It'll cost. It might cost more to charge because you have to convert that oil into actually energy that can be produced to charge your vehicle versus refining the oil to gasoline,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, and the average cost is 40 cents to 70 cents per kilowatt. And so that's assuming that you have an EV that has, let's say, what's the average EV? Like 250 kilowatts, something in there,
I
maybe
think
maybe a
so.
little bit more.
250 is the
So
average.
that's a lot of money because the average tank is the gas 350 a gallon. The average tank size is about 10 gallons.
10 to 13
Yeah,
gallons
so you're
costs you if you
spending
use.
much more.
I mean, I fill up with premium and like I had 100 miles left in my range and I filled up with $44.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, let me do some math here. I'm gonna go on the high ends. I'm gonna look at 70 cents.
yep,
70 cents times 250. Yeah, it's 175
yep. So
charge.
we're throwing a lot of
Wow.
we're throwing a lot of numbers at you, everybody, and we just want you to be aware that we don't have the technology yet to create EVs cheap. I mean, look at Tesla's. Remember when Teslas went through the roof and their prices, and now they just dropped 10 grand?
It's still expensive.
They're still
I mean,
expensive for the
130,
average.
40 grand.
It's like the average consumer doesn't have that type of money
Nope.
to buy these EVs, and especially during times like these. Like, there's no spending going on. People are saving their money. They don't want EVs at the moment because they can't sustain them. Yes, everyone is moving towards them, but at the cost of their own finances,
Yeah.
at
Oh
the
my goodness.
expense and the stress of their own finances. And it's like, how is this fair? Yes, there's a tax credit of 7,500, but that's
Yeah.
assuming you owe tax money.
Yeah.
Most people don't have businesses. Most people don't work under a 1099 form. So it's like
You're not gonna owe much money.
that 7,500 is not going towards anywhere.
Yeah, you're basically
It's
losing
just
out.
like, yeah, you're just gonna lose it until you actually owe taxes, whether you have started a business or have unreported income. But
Yeah.
even then, it's like, how rare is that? Because most Americans filed for W-2 because they have a W-2, and
I
it's
mean, most Americans, the average salary in the United States of America is $69,000, and so that car over 6 years is going to cost you $2,000 more than what most people make in America, and that's a lot. $2,000 is a lot of differences between you living um in a house versus you not being or you being able to put food on the table and stuff like that. So 71,000 is just insanely expensive. And so the most important part, moving forward for the United States is to try and figure out how to lower these prices because a gas car, $58,000 over annually and $35,000 in a starting average just to get it. That's assuming too. This has trucks under it. I mean, diesel is technically not gas, but this is assuming that you're also buying trucks, and trucks can be ranging from 40 to 70 grand. And if you get like a nice Ford, you get a nice Ram or a nice Chevy, that goes up in the prices. So that even then is still cheaper when you're assuming truck in that market versus the EVs. And by $12,000, look, there's multiple studies have been done, and multiple not just studies, but like just looking at your investment data, and a lot of investors, $10,000 in a Standard and Poor's, which is the S&P index, over 30 years can make you $1 million.
and that's assuming a 10% return.
It's assuming a 10% return, which is the
Which
average
is
return over a
average.
30-year lifetime.
Yeah.
But what would you rather have? No $12,000, $1 million. And if you go back to one of our episodes, we talked about investing. Please go back to one of our topics of the week and listen to our investing thing. Um, but that's a lot. $12,000 for an average person, and then again, that's not assuming the charging station,
Yeah.
which is actually 5 grand.
I want to shift our talk to now trucks.
Trucks, I love that.
Tesla semis. Fantastic idea.
I love it.
We're already seeing them breaking down though. There's
Oh,
been
really?
this one incident where there was I think it was a Frito-Lay truck.
Weren't they supposed to have four motors, so if one breaks, the other
I don't
three
know.
can
I
work?
saw online they were getting towed. So
Jeez, that's not
and
good.
that's not to
Not good for
target
business.
that's not to target the Tesla semis.
No.
It's a fantastic step in the right direction. It's four independent motors, so if one breaks down, you can use the other three.
Yeah.
Big battery pack, but the strain on that battery to tow 50,000 pounds, I think it
It's a
is.
lot. Yeah, whatever it is. That's a lot.
52 foot gross vehicle weight combined, 80,000 pounds.
Yeah.
That's just good strain on the battery.
It would
That,
need four huge batteries. Huge.
it's, we're getting there. And these are, in my eyes, I see them as prototypes. And there still needs to be work.
Mhm.
It's a fantastic idea. I love the design. It's very aerodynamic. It's very efficient, important. And it's a good way to cut costs to ship stuff around. Very important for supply chain
Yes, yes.
because it'll cut down on costs, but we're still not there yet. We need more time to create and produce these EV trucks
Mhm.
to
And
make them more cost efficient.
and by the way, we are not EV haters. I want to get that out of the way. I mean,
Uh,
I'm personally not an EV hater.
I'm not an EV hater here. I was actually considering an EV,
Yeah,
but
and
it's just
so we're not EV haters. I personally think EVs have been great for the car, like the nice car industry, like the luxury car industry, because
oh
they
yeah,
finally decided to restyle some cars when then they stamp an EV on it. So it is also great for competition too, in many cases. But my biggest problem with the Biden administration is they are ambitious, but they also are ignorant in the fact they can't understand, and I don't like them forcing our hands into moving EV.
into something that.
The
The world's
market
still not
should
ready.
dictate itself. If
Yes.
people want EVs, they'll buy them. And we saw that when Tesla started to become reliable around 2017 to 2019. I mean, they became the second. No, I'm sorry,
Mo-
they became the biggest market cap
Model
company,
3s were flying out like hotcakes.
and they became the biggest market capped car company in the world, and also the second largest company, period, in the world in terms of market cap. Yep, at that time. So that's fine.
Let the market,
Whatever.
yeah,
Let them
let
decide.
the consumers decide. It's our choice. It shouldn't be that's having government step into the economy.
Yes.
And I'm against that. I only want government to step in monopolization.
Hmm.
I don't want them to step in anywhere else in economics.
Yeah.
It should be completely consumer dictated. When we had our gas crisis back in it was in the 80s, correct?
70s.
70s. Everyone moved from the big gas guzzlers to your Toyotas and Hondas
Yep.
because the market needed it.
Hmm.
We should wait for a
Exactly.
point where there's a flashpoint and have again that hopefully not as bad, but have a situation where it's time to actually switch from gas to EVs. And we will have that inflection point.
Yeah.
When will it be? I'm not sure. But there's going to be that point where we say no more to gas and
Yeah.
bring in EVs, just like how we did in the 70s.
Yeah. And the other thing I really don't like about this is that they assume that the people of America are rich. I
Oh yeah,
absolutely hate that.
that's the one thing with the administration.
And I remember I saw a clip on one of my news apps on Instagram from a Fox News report talking about EVs, and one of the guys there was like, "Oh yeah, I'd much rather have an electric Bentley than pay for gasoline," and the ignorance
Oh my,
in that statement. Because not only did he say an electric car, he says an
electric
electric
Bentley.
Bentley. Uh, you
That's
can't get a Bentley for less than 150 G's.
impossible.
Brand new. You
Impossible.
can't. You can't. The ignorance in that statement just proves to me that they don't care about the American public. The American public is barely able to afford gasoline at this moment. What makes you think that we're able to afford a new EV? Because we're
Yep.
not going to get an old one because they just don't freaking work.
Nope, they don't. They
And
lose. What was it? 20% of their battery capacity. So they degrade over time.
and their value just goes down so significantly because they're garbage. And so it's a little waste of time to get an EV at this moment if you can't afford it. If you can afford it, whatever. You do you. You know, if one day I make enough money and I want to get a Tesla, you're damn right I'm going to buy a Tesla. I like the way
If I have the
Teslas look.
money,
Yeah, if
I
I
don't
have
have the money
money.
right now.
I don't have that.
No
Yeah,
one has the
exactly.
money right
I don't
now.
have that money right now.
No, that's such an ignorant comment.
Like, and the Biden administration putting this out is also ignorant in itself because they assume that we have the money to do this. We don't. And they're not doing anything to fix the economy so we can have the money to do this either.
And they're not doing anything to lower the cost of EVs, which is going to bring me into my next point.
Mm.
The materials needed to build an EV.
Ah, ha, ha. My
Let's
favorite part.
start with the battery pack. You need lithium, cobalt, nickel. Three most important. You need your then electric motor. To build it, you need copper, steel, other elements such as neodymium and dysprosium. I don't know if I said that correctly. Then you need your power electronics. This is all your cabling. Materials needed are copper and aluminum. Wiring, same thing, copper, aluminum. Then you need your charging infrastructure, which we said before needs copper, aluminum, steel. Then you need your body and chassis, which also needs aluminum, carbon fiber. And then finally, the interior, which are plastics, leathers, and other fabrics. So, the world at the moment does not have the amount of lithium, cobalt, nickel, copper, and aluminum needed to build a lot of these EVs.
Well, it does. We just don't.
Oh, we're
We
not
don't want to
digging it.
get a dig for it. Yeah.
And if we do dig for it, we're going to have a lot of environmentalists saying no,
Yeah.
which is we want our EVs. Yes. But if we're gonna have a lot of pushback on lithium mines, it's like, what choice do we have?
Hmm.
And lithium mines are terrible for our atmosphere.
Yeah.
The dust that comes, it's pure toxic. It's pure
Yeah.
toxic, that dust. It, I don't know if there's even a fine line. This is a big balancing game between getting the EVs and mining the materials we need for the EVs. It's like media is not showing the side of what it's like to and work a lithium mine and what it does to your surrounding environments. What we
Yep.
need before we even start a lithium mine is environmental programs that restore the land that is affected by lithium mines, creating some sort of barrier between the mine to any wildlife outside.
Yeah.
Because it's like a contagion of just dust that flies everywhere.
Hmm.
Harmful. It's harmful to breathe all that. So
Horrible. Yeah. And the other thing we need to really figure out is if we really want to move towards EVs is alternative ways to make batteries. We have yet to figure out how to do that outside of a lithium
I don't
battery.
even know if there's even
There
an alternative
are
option. We have hydrogen. There's hydrogen as an option,
hydrogen. That's like, oh my goodness, that'd be great.
but that's
There's zinc manganese oxide batteries, volts, nanowire, um, and organosilicon. But I mean, they don't really work. And
not as
nanovolt
effective as
lithium,
lithium.
yeah, but lithium,
Lithium's ability to transfer energy.
yeah. And so if they really want EVs, they have to go into Europe, they have to go into Latin America, where the most and parts of Africa where the most lithium are, and extract it.
On our Insta post, our Insta stories, there's a if you go to our story, you'll read something about an article that discusses lithium in Latin America. That's
Yeah,
where it's at.
from The Economist.
Yep, and that's where our lithium needs to be sourced from.
Mhm.
Is Latin America. Latin America can be a leader in this in EVs.
Yeah, could
We're
help
just not
develop them.
pouring enough investment into it, and it's like we created an artificial bottleneck. We want EVs, but we are not going to source it, nor not even source it, find out ways here in the United States. There's two lithium mines, one in Nevada that has potential, and another place elsewhere. I forgot what other state it was. But I was reading on this, and it's like we have it here. There's options in Latin America, our partners, which we can use very closely to
Hmm.
create some diplomatic solution to solve a global problem.
Yep,
Imagine Latin America being the lead on fixing this global problem. Amazing.
be great. It'd be great for them because then it jumpstarts their economy
Our economy,
very
their
fast.
economy, they'll have a voice in the global stage.
Yep, because they have the majority
We
of
just
lithium.
aren't going into these options. We are not actively seeking lithium mines and cobalt mines and nickel mines.
Uh, One of my biggest issues with the United States today is we're way too worried about political side effects. And not the people, but our politicians, about political side effects of them making decisions. And it's always been a problem, and it's always been something in the United States because you have to get reelected, whatever. But back in the day, sometimes they would just kind of ignore a little bit of the political side of things and just do. Because in the end, it may look bad on paper, but something can come out that's very good, like economic benefits, or even in this case, if we have, because it is true, if we do have more EVs on the road, we'll have less air pollution. I mean, it's not a bad thing. Some places stink,
Yep.
smell, and some people can't breathe in them. China, Indonesia, India would benefit greatly
Tremendously.
from EVs. I mean, it was, I remember in February, you could not leave your house in Jakarta, Indonesia, because the toxin levels were so high it would burn your eyes. So in some places, this would benefit a lot. Um, so it is important, and so our politicians need to kind of put aside a little bit what some big
It's
talkers
all it
do.
is just ego.
Yeah,
It's
politics.
just
Yeah,
it's just them their personal gain. they want to be reelected, as you said. Their only goal is reelection.
Yep.
And
So
their
sad.
goal is no longer serving the American people. Their goal is reelection and staying in power. That's just how it is. Direct.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with businesses. Their only goal is to not make profits, but in my eyes, to please shareholders. For politicians, it's only to get reelected.
Yeah.
So we have gone away from a time where it's actually focusing on creating a strong America to flex to the world, to just having individual power. That's just
Yeah.
how it is.
And I don't like that. I just want to go back to the infrastructure for just one more minute
Sure.
because it got me thinking for a second that if we start to work on EV infrastructure, finally we would work on modernizing our energy infrastructure and our electricity going from house to house, from pole to pole.
Oh, oh, you're talking about the electric grid now.
Yeah, the electric grid.
Okay.
This would be it. So this is actually not foreign in the sense that it could help our electric grid a lot in redeveloping it because we need to obviously fit the ability to have 230 billion kilowatts on the grid by 2030. And so, yes, it's a lot. Yes, it's a lot of money that's going to have to be dished out, but it's not a bad way to modernize what we desperately need to modernize. But how are we going to do it?
You know what I was
If we are
thinking?
going to
Oh,
do
I
it.
was just about to answer that question.
Here we go.
What if, hypothetically, let's say you have an EV and you just purchased your own charging station. For a Tesla, it's called the wall connector. What if, hypothetically, the government says if you buy a Generation 2 or Generation 3 charger for your house, we will supply you a solar panel or two
Mm-mm.
to connect this charger to the solar panel instead of connecting it to the grid, which is just powered
Yeah.
by oil or coal or whatever.
I was actually going to say because great idea. In more like desert, like states like Nevada or something,
Right.
or I don't know, I was gonna say Colorado, Arizona, or Utah. You know, we can slap a very big
Solar farm.
solar farm into a field that's gonna have sun, let's say 250 days of the year, which would be the only cost-effective way. That's not a bad idea because that could power the West Coast. West Coast, very, open field, plains, deserts. That could power the West Coast. The problem would be the East Coast. Because very rocky, rainy, wintry, kind of area.
Yep.
But that's one half of the country that can be solved. You know, put a bunch of solar panels in that area. So that's not a bad idea to get it off the regular grid.
Right.
But the grid does need to be modernized. Yeah. Well,
Yep.
it's horrible. If winds are 20 miles an hour out here, sometimes power will just go out, and it's like,
Offshore wind farms are an option too.
yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Have those.
Power those EVs. Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
what else? What else? You have anything else on there? 'Cause I don't have anything else to discuss here.
Because my brain was already imploded by
So,
the costs and everything.
note to self: do math beforehand and come prepared.
I didn't even think I could
Listen, I
do
got
this
to
right now.
Calc 2, and I was like, I'm done here.
Yeah, I did not.
As soon as I entered college, I was like, no more math for me. I don't want to see another math problem. I already had all my credits I needed for math. But
Yeah.
um, oh, you know what did want to talk about? Semiconductors.
Yeah, that's the big,
The
big one.
draft bill that we talked about in our latest global developments, the last one,
Yeah, most recent.
on what by the time of this upload, it'll be on a Wednesday. The one that we talked about the Monday of this week
Yep.
is very important
Hmm.
for these EVs. You want to make cheaper EVs? We need domestic production.
Yes.
To start, we're going to need the materials, domestic material production. We have the semiconductors. We just need to find, as I said before, the lithium, cobalt, nickel, everything else I said. But the semiconductors, creating them in the United States, is a fantastic start to make these cheaper for the American consumer. So,
Yes.
just wanted to put that out there before I forgot.
Very good point, and hope they do that. I hope they continue
I
to
hope
build on that.
I hope that's their goal and what they're actually aiming for. And that's probably what they're aiming for.
Yeah.
If we were to ask them, why are you doing this?
We
It's
need,
probably EVs.
we need to bring back manufacturing to this country, period.
Yep.
So this could help lower costs for even like just the assembly line of building the car would be much cheaper if we built it in like Texas or something,
Yep.
Florida.
Yep.
So
So I think that's it on my end.
yeah, I got
Um,
nothing else.
we hope you enjoyed this talk on electric vehicles because they are our future.
Hmm.
And as the average consumer, are we ready or not? That depends on you all. I know I'm not ready for it,
Nope.
and we just need more time to develop these EVs and to make them more cheap and affordable for all Americans and for anyone around the world, really.
And
So
not have the government telling me
what to
that
do
I
and
should
what,
buy them.
yeah. And they offer no incentive to besides the tax credit, assuming that I owe tax money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so well, thank you all for listening on this week's topic of the week. We promise to give you continuously amazing content. So
Absolutely.
thank you all for watching, even if it's just for a little bit. We appreciate any and all support that you give us. It means way more than what you guys
Can
need.
understand.
If
Yeah.
you guys just watch like 5 minutes of this, like we appreciate it. That's all we ask
Absolutely.
for.
Yep.
That's all we ask for. We don't ask for anything else. And we also try to be completely fact based with actual smart opinions and not what the CNN and Fox do with their opinions. We actually try to encourage discussion and think about this in all ends. So
Hmm.
thank you for all your support. And yeah, we'll
Yeah.
catch you in the next episodes.
Take care.